Look, man, talent alone cannot guarantee success. So for a business owner, persistence does have a role specifically in our lives. Persistence is not a trait. It's a necessity. What we sow in our business is going to yield us a reward greater than that of which we sown. See, there's an advantage to persistence that cannot be measured financially. I really want you to lean in and listen to this. Through persistence, you and I are being molded into the person that is able to handle the future success. Let's talk through that. Have you ever thought to yourself, success is impossible? It ain't gonna happen. That's how we say it in the South. It just ain't gonna happen, bro. I am busting it. I'm doing everything I know how to do. I'm broke, like poor with a bunch of O's between the P and the R, like poor. I mean, I don't know how to make this work. I got a dream. I've got a vision. But man, this is just impossible. We had a listener reach out since we've turned the podcast and relaunched it with this new platform. And she said, Justin, you're helping me. Thank you for encouraging me. Thank you for inspiring me. Thank you for your continued education. As I mentioned, the last 500 or so episodes have been all about education and trying to teach and pour knowledge out there for us business owners to be able to grab it and lean it and apply it. But it's much more than that for we as business owners. We as business owners, oftentimes we we feel like we've been run over by a steamroller, as my grandpa would say. Son, I'm just flat broke and I'm exhausted. And in our weakness, if we're not careful, we'll plant these evil and toxic seeds of thought in our minds and in our families' minds, heaven forbid, in our families' minds, that success is impossible. And what happens is, friends, we quit. Right on the cusp, we quit. So today I want to unpack the power of persistence and how we as business owners can unlock success. Today I'm going to define success a little bit more detailed, but I want to dive into this, the power of persistence. I was reading a quote. Actually, if you want to know the truth, I saw it on a YouTube or a TikTok video of the movie about the McDonald's brother, and Ray Kroc made his character in the movie, made these words. So I went back and said, did the real Ray Kroc actually say this statement? And he did. The statement is powerful. I'm going to read it word for word about what Ray Kroc said concerning persistence. Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful individuals with talent. Boy, that's the truth. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. Think about that. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. That's a powerful statement. When I read that, I heard it first and I read it. I'm starting to internalize it. I'm like, man, that is so true. That is so true. But persistence, if we're defining it, persistence is often misunderstood. I know as I was doing this study, as I was internalizing it for myself, as I'm encouraging myself, as I'm trying to inspire myself, as I'm looking forward and trying to educate myself for this next chapter of my life, it's like the second act for me personally. I'm realizing that several things that I assumed to be the case, it's just not true. For example, persistence. It's misunderstood. It's more than just keeping at something. It's a relentless determination to achieve a goal despite the obstacles. Let's park there for a second. It's a relentless determination to achieve the goal that I have in my life, the desires in my heart. I am going to determine it despite the obstacles. I'm going to achieve it. I'm determined I'm going to achieve this despite the obstacles out here in the future. As Ray Kroc wisely noted, Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. The Harvard Business Review, which is a publication I love to read behind, they cited that 95% of successful entrepreneurs attribute their success to persistence and determination. Look, man, talent alone cannot guarantee success. That's what Ray Kroc was saying. There's a number of examples that we've seen out there of people who are talented that they're just not moving to the direction they need to move. Some might call them a failure at their particular job. But what a waste. What a waste. You see people who are so talented and they waste that talent. You say, well, okay, intellect. I'm super smart. We all are smart at something. It's just we had to figure out what we're smart at. For example, I cannot spell, but I have an unbelievable memory. Others can have an unbelievable others can spell everything and they can't remember anything. So we're all smart, but intellect in our minds does not guarantee success. For me to go out and get another designation, another credential, earn another certificate, earn another degree is not going to provide me an opportunity for more success unless I pair it with persistence. Even a fancy degree, as I'm talking about. I mean, my goodness, how many people they launch into their business, especially in the professional world, friends, especially in the professional world. I call it alphabet soup. I see these individuals, they go out and they earn a designation. Let's just pick a designation out there. It doesn't matter. And then that didn't get them where they want to be, so they go get another one. And that one didn't get them where they need to be, so they go get another one. And as they're throwing on these designations, yet they still are struggling. Friends, I've met people in their mid-50s and early 60s who've had a career in the professional world, either in law or finance or business, and they are still broke. But they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on an education to get that little certificate. Friends, education alone does not guarantee success. Understanding the distinction between talent, genius, and persistence is crucial for us. See, talent is a gift. Talent is a gift. It's a gift from God. But of itself it's not enough. Genius, while it's remarkable, of itself is not enough. Education provides knowledge, but of itself, unless it's supplied with tenacity and persistence, is not enough. Persistence, though, it epitomizes the individuals like Thomas Edison. Think about Thomas Edison. What, he failed 1,000 times trying to make a light bulb? In essence, persistence means having the grit to keep on going when faced with adversity. The resilience, if you will, to bounce back from the setbacks. I can almost see a rubber band in my head. Whenever you stretch it out, you let it go and it pops back. It's a determination to achieve the goal, to achieve the dream, to push forward with aspiration, with gumption, with ambition to the future that you can already envision despite the odds. Come what may, I'm going here. It's a quality, friends, that if we as business owners will allow it to permeate our life, our visions, our goals, our dreams, they'll quickly manifest into reality, all through persistence. There is a role for persistence in our lives as business owners, and it actually plays a powerful catalyst for the outcome that we desire. You know, as business owners, we're going to face some unimaginable circumstances. We're going to face some things that, if we had sat down in the early days and we could see where the road was going to leave us, we might question our insanity. If you want to take it a step further, the very thought of launching a business or being a small business owner, the risk versus reward, proves that we're already crazy. But so many times, though, friends, we don't think about the magnitude of the turmoil. The road ahead is rocky. The road ahead is full of pitfalls. And only those who build this persistent mindset to the destination will survive and reach the ultimate success. The Bureau of Labor Statistics identifies that approximately 20% of new businesses fail in the first year, 45% fail by year 5, and 65% of businesses fail by year 10. That's an unbelievable failure rate. Why? Could it be that the journey that we're on as business owners, we really never knew the magnitude of the severity? And yet we're in the storm and we're finding ourselves saying, Oh my goodness, can I continue to do this? I can see it. I know the vision, but I am tired. How much more can I take? Is it really worth it? Is success even real? Winston Churchill famously said, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts." What's he talking about? He's talking about persistence. We all know we're not guaranteed tomorrow. But unless we persist, unless we achieve, unless we persevere to where we desire to be, wherever that mark is out in your future, you're never going to reach it. Success is not a destination. Hear me on this. Success is not a destination. It's a continuous journey marked by many, many, many ups and downs. As entrepreneurs, we're going to face some amazing highs and some amazing lows. Friends, I've been at some highs where I'm just flabbergasted at how much God's blessed me. Just to sit back and look and say, wow, look at what he's done. And I've been at some lows where I'm sitting by the pine tree in the backyard at midnight saying, what are you doing? Really? Really? Some high highs and some low lows. And for this road that we're on as business owners, this journey that we're on, it's magical, but my goodness, it'll beat the life out of you. And persistence is what's going to separate the successful entrepreneurs from those who are unsuccessful, from those who give up, from those who fall in that statistic by the U.S. Labor Bureau. We got to understand something. For us as entrepreneurs, it's not about getting through the storm. And how many times in my early days when I would face adversity or when I would face a hard time, and friends, I've had some hard times. Sometimes if I started talking about it publicly, you would say, dude, seriously? I've had some doozies, bud. Man. But it's not for us. It's not for anybody. For us to get through it. If I can just get through this. No. For us as entrepreneurs, our job, our duty, our opportunity, if you will, the blessing that we have during the tribulation, during the storm, is that we can build strength, tenacity. We can build a muscle memory. Think about a muscle. Whenever you have a muscle, you grow up through tearing it. You grow up through working it out. The same thing is true with you. You see, wouldn't it be ashamed if you had this goal, whatever your goal is out there in the future, you can see it. You know what it is. You have this goal way out there in the future. Wouldn't it be a shame if you were not physically, mentally, spiritually, psychologically, financially, whatever the data point is that you need, wouldn't it be a shame if you were not able to meet the goal because you had not gone through the proper exercising? I can remember one time I tried to run a half Ironman. I had done many by this time, but this time I had not exercised properly, and it hurt. It hurt me bad. Like, I haven't ran one since. It was painful. See, persistence is not a trait. It's a necessity. Hear me. If you are going to be successful, persistence is a necessity. No ifs, no ands, no buts. There's a benefit to persistence. There's several benefits to persistence. I've spoken over the last few episodes about success. And we're going to talk more and more and more about success and wealth on the podcast going forward. Success, as I define it, is obtaining all that God has for me. Just a simple statement. I want all that God has for me. Period. That's success. Well, Justin, how do you know if you ever achieve that? I'm going to continue to drive forward. I'm going to continue to move forward until he calls me home. I want all that God has for me. I want to leave a legacy behind me so my children, so the people that I have the honor and privilege to impact through my life, in and through my life, so they can sit back and they say, wow, look at what God did in his life. But it's even more than that. In order for me to obtain all that God has for me, I have to be molded. I have to be molded. Scripture says, do not be weary in well-doing, for in due season you shall reap if you faint not. That reap there is a farmer's term. I love farming. As many of you know, one of my degrees is in horticulture. I love to get out in the summertime, pull the tractor out, till the ground, get the seed in, put the water down, keep the weeds out of it, and ultimately have a crop. Ultimately, we feed our family. We try to eat as organic as possible. As I mentioned in one of the previous episodes, whenever my dad passed away unexpectedly, I made a pact with myself and my wife that at that point, I'm going to do the best I can within my abilities, within my capabilities to take care of myself. And so one of the things I do physically, and oftentimes you'll see me even get darker during the summertime, is I spend time outside farming. I love it. But this particular scripture, don't be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not, goes directly to a law. Directly to a law. What's a law? It's like, take it to the bank. So for example, you have Newton's first law. We've all heard of Newton's first law. An object at rest remains at rest. An object in motion remains in motion at constant speed and in a straight line unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. Pretty simple. An easier one is the law of gravity. What goes up must come down. In finance, we have the law of supply and demand. As prices rise on a given resource, product, or commodity, the demand will decline. Conversely, as prices fall, the demand increases. Simple as that. Supply of law and demand. What we're talking about around this law of sowing and reaping, when we say, don't be weary in well-doing. In other words, don't quit. Be persistent in well-doing, for in due season, at your right season and time, you will reap if you faint not. This isn't Isaac Newton. This isn't Galileo. This is God's law. It's pretty interesting. If you go right above that particular verse, it actually says, be not deceived. God is not mocked. In other words, hey, look, it's pretty easy. I'm not going to be mocked. Whatever you sow, you're going to reap. Pretty simple. But in business, we often forget that there's laws that we have to understand and apply principles from ourselves toward our outcome. So for example, sowing and reaping. If I go out in my garden, I use this all the time. If I go out in my garden and I plant corn, I'm not going to get okra. It's just not going to happen. I will reap what I sow. So in business, if I sow seeds that yield very small profitability, I'm going to have very small profit. If I sow seeds that yield high profitability, I'm going to have high profit. If I sow seeds of discontent in my business, I'm going to reap discontent. If I sow seeds of joy, if I sow seeds that help people, I'm going to reap the reward of helping people. It's pretty simple. We get that part. But what we often forget is this. It's not that we're just going to reap what we sow. We're going to reap more than we sow. Think about this. Think about this. I get a bag of corn, seed corn, and it may have, let's say, 200-300 kernels in it. I plant that seed corn. My garden's about 100-foot rows, and I may put 15, 16, 20 rows of corn down. For every kernel of corn that I drop in the ground, that stalk on average will have 2 ears of corn. Now, how many kernels of corn are on an ear of corn? Hundreds? So it's possible that for one kernel of corn, I could get a 200, 300x return. Friends, the same is true in our business. What we sow in our business is going to yield us a reward greater than that of which we sown. If we sow $1, the law says is that we'll reap more than $1. Here's another one. We will reap in proportion to how we've sown. In my garden, in my particular garden, I have 3 different soil types. And the garden is only about 150 by 150 feet by 150 feet. You say, Justin, how do you have 3 different soil types? It's amazing when you understand the earth and how things move. So the back left half of my garden is extremely fertile soil. And every year as I till it, I try to drag that soil to the top right side of my garden, which is more rocky and clay. So I'm constantly amending the top right side of my garden and trying not to amend the back side of my garden. And if I sow my seeds improperly, if I'm not constantly working and paying attention where my seeds go, then I'm only going to reap in proportion to how I sow. If I put all of my seeds on stone and stony ground, I'm not going to get really good results from my garden. If I threw my seeds in the back of the truck, I sowed them, I threw them out. I'm hoping they'll grow. I watered them, but corn's not going to grow in the back of my truck. There's actually a song, corn don't grow all on rocky top, right? I mean, it's actually a very annoying song here in Tennessee, if you ask me, but nonetheless, the principle is there. We're going to reap what we sow, and we're going to reap more than we sow, and we're going to reap in proportion to how we sow. If we sow our wares, if you sow your product directly to the people who desire your product, you're going to reap a higher reward than if you try to sell it to people that don't want your product. It's as simple as that. Here's one that we always forget, friends, and it ties perfectly into persistence. We will reap in a different season than when we sow. Let me say that again. We will reap in a different season than when we sow. Let's go back to my corn example. Typically here in Tennessee, we'll plant our corn, depending on the weather and the almanac, we'll plant our corn in maybe late April, maybe mid-May, depends on that, but it needs to be in the ground by about June. It needs to be in the ground before then. So if I'm planting it in late April in Tennessee, it's beautiful here in East Tennessee. The dogwoods are blooming, the bees are out, the weather is somewhat mild. You may get 85 degrees. It's springtime. I'm in the season of spring and I'm sowing my seeds in the soil. But I don't reap them the very next day. In fact, I don't reap them the very next week. I don't reap them until mid to late summer, depending on the type of seed or the cultivar. So whenever I sow my seed in the season of spring, if I put corn in the ground, I'm not going to yield corn in the springtime. It's going to be the summertime. It's a different season. The same is true for us in business. See, oftentimes, especially in our instant gratification world that I grew up in, I sow my seed. I pitch myself, my wares. I find the right soil. I find the right client. I have the right product. I try to pair them up and I pitch it out there to that particular client. I'm like, hey, buy this. And they don't. And my season, as I view it as a business owner, may coincide with the 4 seasons of the year. But the reality is, for many of us, a season could be many years. Many years. I'll give you a real life example. I came into the financial industry in, I believe it was late 2003, early 2004. I can't remember exactly when that was. I don't remember the exact date. I may be off a year. And built a business, did quite well, went through a lawsuit, and it was painful. It was painful. It was the hardest thing I ever dealt with personally that attacked me in my life. Hardest thing ever. And I found myself in 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, broke. I'm telling you, my wife called me one day and she says, I am miserable. The goat is eating the side of the house. Now I laugh about it. But remember, we had made a lot of money. We bought a really nice fancy house in the northern side of Knoxville, Tennessee. Real nice house. And debt-free, cars paid off. And then, boom, I get hit with a lawsuit about 4 or 5 years into my career. And here we are now 6, 7 years later, so poor that, as the old saying goes, we didn't have a pot to pee in. I mean, we didn't have any money. And so we sold the house, actually had to pay some money to get out of the house. And then thank God we have some dear friends who had a little double wide mobile home that wasn't even quite finished yet. I mean, we moved in and there was no flooring in this house. We did the best we could. We had 2 little babies and we moved into this little double wide house and we had a goat that we liked, our kids liked. And lo and behold, the goat liked to eat the house. This is the same place that whenever my name appeared in Forbes, my wife is stuck in the driveway around Christmas time. We had to get a wrecker out there to get the car out of the driveway because it's stuck in the mud. Here I am, this financial guy in Forbes, and we are broke. Talk about imposter syndrome. But that season from 2004 went way past 10 years. Way past 10 years. We had a little bit of instant success. But man, we were broke. But here I am sowing seeds. It wasn't until we started my own company in 2017. It took 5 years from nothing in 2017 to an 8-figure exit in 2021. 5 years. Actually, less than that, if you want to put it by months. Okay, so whenever I hear that, I ask myself, well, when did I reap? Did I reap it whenever I actually saw the money hit the bank account? Did I reap it whenever I left the business and started my own business and settled the lawsuit? Did I reap it? When did I reap it? The reality is it doesn't matter. I sowed it back in this season, and over a decade later, I reaped it. Now you say, well, Justin, I've been doing it for 25 years. Your seasons are just longer. That's okay. It's okay. Friends, persistence is here. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. This is his law. What you sow, you're going to reap. Here's another. So not only do we have you reap what you sow, you reap more than you sow, you reap in proportion to how you sow, you reap in a different season than you have sown. But get this, you reap what others have sown. In our garden, I put food down, and we do it for our family. But every year we walk in and we give food away. We give it to my team members. We give it to folk at church. We give it to our neighbors. We give food away. Why? Because God is blessing people at different seasons of their life. And you, as a participant of God's law, will reap at a different season from not even your own efforts. Because that's how the law works. Okay, Justin, I get the sowing and reaping. Yeah, I get it. I understand you understand it. In every case, you reap. But you see, sometimes we as business owners, because of the type of personalities we are, we get impatient. Man, Justin, I heard you, but didn't you hear what I said? I am busting my butt over here, and I just can't seem to get ahead, man. Friend, I submit to you that it's just not your season. It's not your season. Don't get weary in well-doing, for in due season, in your season you shall reap if you faint not. So I want to encourage you. I want to encourage the business owner. Business owners are hurting and they don't have anybody to talk to. Friends, over 30 years now I've been a business owner. I often say no one understands a business owner like another business owner. No one. And reality is, and no one understands a 30-year veteran business owner like another 30-year veteran business owner. Now, I understand the people behind me. I've been there. I remember what it was like to have to go to either side of the house and be broke as a joke and have duct tape to hold the car together. I remember that. I remember not even having $1 in our bank account. We had bills due, and we're saying, Lord, how are we going to do it? We had to sell things to pay the bills. I can remember that. But see, what happens is we get weary. We get weary. We start looking at money, the monetary reward of our efforts, as the results of our output. But so much more is happening. See, there's an advantage to persistence that cannot be measured financially. I really want you to lean in and listen to this. I want you to double click on where I'm fixing to go. So many times, because of the world of success that we live in, because of the world of money, even the thumbnail that we're using for this particular YouTube and podcast talks about success. The world that we live in, it glamorizes success. Reality is God owns everything, even the hills and the cattle on it. He owns it all. He owns everything I have. But this world makes it as if we're not financially successful in the moment, or we're not reaping the financial reward in the moment, then, as I mentioned a few episodes back, my little son Jude walks around the house going, "You're a failure." I still can't figure out where you heard that at, but it is so funny. I still laugh about it. The reality is through persistence, you and I are being molded into the person that is able to handle the future success. Let's talk through that. If somebody had paid me the amount of money I received in my 40s back when I was in my 20s, it would have ruined my life. I'm telling you, it would have ruined my life. I wasn't equipped to handle the blessing at that point, that season of my life. I wasn't equipped for it. If somebody had given me the team members that I currently have the honor and privilege to work with 30 years ago, 20 years ago, I would never have the honor and privilege to work with. I would have ran them off. I was a jerk. They had a typical type A personality. I'm going to charge hell with a water pistol. I'll run you over. Don't care about you. And then God wrecked my life, man. Wrecked it. You see, persistence enhances resilience. As we go through hard times, and as we push through those times, we're becoming better equipped to handle adversity. We're less prone to give up in the face of setbacks. Remember, the best sailors are made in the roughest seas. If you look back in your history today, Go back whatever the length of time you would have to maybe a year or two into your career or your business journey. Could you have handled the things you're facing now back then? No, you couldn't have. Could it be, and I submit to you it is, that you are being prepared just as an athlete is for a championship? You are being prepared for your championship. And your championship is just around the corner. A moment's notice, friends, it'll be here. You see, persistence, as we work through these hard times as business owners, it enhances our resilience. It makes us prepared for what we have been prepared for. Not only does it do that, but persistence fosters adaptability. Things are always changing. Man, alive, things are changing. It seems like now the older I get, the faster they change. I remember talking to my grandma before she passed, and she's like, this world is just crazy. And now I find myself, and I don't consider myself old, but I find myself saying things like, this world is just crazy. Things are changing so just absurd. See, through persistence, we build our adaptability, and it allows us to seize opportunities when they come. If we evolve our strategies and we adapt to the market, we're able to persevere through persistence. We'll get to our ultimate destination. I have to believe within my person that you, whoever you are able to maneuver circumstances quicker today than you were a few years ago. I have to believe that. It's like a muscle memory. I go back to the Karate Kid. Wax on, wax off. I realize I'm a child of the 80s, and you may like, dude, seriously? Wax on, wax off. And Danielson is talking to Mr. Miyagi like, dude, I want to learn how to punch. And all he's teaching him is muscle memory. Persistence works in the same fashion. It's helping us become resilient. But get this. This is so good, friends. This is so good. Persistent individuals tend to display a higher level of tenacity. They're not easily discouraged. They make better decisions. They've overcome their challenges, and they can help others overcome their challenges. They maintain focus on the objective, and they can help others focus on the objective. We've all faced challenges. Oh my goodness, friends, I've had 3 lawsuits in my career that I've dealt with. The first one kicked my teeth. It about did me in. I'm talking about physically, emotionally, spiritually, you name it, it about did me in. There were some very, very, very dark days. But the next one that came, it was painful, but it wasn't as painful. And the third went through the company. Okay, very big deal, whatever. It'll work out. And it's like, as I've gone through that particular example, and your example may be different, and I've had some others, it'll work out. I can remember my wife. We've had 3 miscarriages as a husband and wife, 3 miscarriages between each of our children. And each one of them are devastating. And for those of you who've ever gone through this, especially a woman who's gone through this, I don't even know what to say. But from my perspective as a man, going through this, not knowing how to love my wife during that time, doing the best I could, trying to seek encouragement, the first one was extremely hard. And then we got a little calloused, if you will. We were still tender. The second one was a little hard, was hard, but didn't have quite the same sting as the first one. And the third one, it was like, all right, Lord, you got it. Take it. Whatever you need to do. You see, because through persistence, and we end up having our 3 beautiful children, God's blessed us. It's unbelievable. The life I live is a fairy tale. It really is, friends. I am blessed beyond measure. But through this persistence, God put a certain level of tenacity. Somebody said callous. And it's really not a callous, because you still have humility. You still have meekness. You still have empathy with people. But now through that, you can look back, and it's not about you. It becomes more about, I know where I'm going. Come on, guys, you can do it. And maybe that's where I'm at in my person now. It's like I've proven to myself through the hard times that if this country boy from East Tennessee, born and raised in the swamps of Georgia, can accomplish the things that God has allowed me to accomplish through persistency, what's your excuse? Because I am not the smartest. I'm not the most educated. I'm not the most talented. Definitely not the best looking. I'm just an old country boy that's just kind of bullheaded. and I want everything that God has for me. We've read the book, The Acres of Diamonds. For those of you who don't know the story, it's about a man who wants to find diamonds. And he gets out in his backyard and he's digging his yard up and he's trying to find diamonds. And he ends up selling his property, moves away. And depending on which version you read, ultimately the diamonds were at his house. I have to ask the question. Could your reward, could your goal, your ambition just be just ahead of you? J.K. Rowling wrote the famous book Harry Potter, and it was rejected 12 times before it was accepted by a publisher. 12 times she was rejected. And her book went on to be one of the best-selling books of all times. Thomas Edison, as I mentioned earlier, said to have failed building the light bulb over 1,000 times. Thank God he finally succeeded. I submit to you, friends, that your destiny is just around the corner. Your goal is just over the hill. Don't quit. Don't quit. I came across this quote that I actually asked my wife this morning. I was doing some research for this podcast. I'd never heard this. It may be common, and forgive me if it is, but when I read this, it was like, holy Batman. I told her, I said, I want to have that. I've got Teddy Roosevelt's Man in the Arena. It's framed on a piece of like barnwood with a canvas frame, and I have it in my office. And I look at that whenever I just need to contemplate just life for a second. And this particular creed, to me, spoke to me in this morning at 4:30 a.m. Eastern time as I'm preparing for my day. It spoke to me, and I told my wife when she woke up, I said, I want this on that canvas around that barnwood around. I'll put it right next to the Man in the Arena. My Creed by Dean Alfange. I do not choose to be a common man. It is my right to be uncommon. If I can, I seek opportunity, not security. I do not wish to be kept a citizen, humbled and dulled by having the state look over me. No, I want to take the calculated risk, to dream and to build, to fail and to succeed. I refuse to barter incentive for adult. I prefer the challenge of life. To the guaranteed existence, the thrill of fulfillment, to the state commutopia, I will not trade freedom for benefits, nor my dignity for a handout. I will never cower before any master, nor bend to any threat. It is my heritage to stand erect, proud and unafraid, to think and act for myself, to enjoy the benefit of my creations, to face the world boldly and say, this, with God's help, I have done. And this is what it means to be an entrepreneur. Y'all go out and make it a great day.